Access arrangements are agreed before an assessment. They allow candidates with certain needs, such as special educational needs, disabilities or temporary injuries, to access the assessment and show what they know and can do without changing the demands of the assessment. The intention behind an access arrangement is to meet the particular needs of an individual candidate without affecting the integrity of the assessment. Access arrangements are the principal way in which awarding bodies comply with their duty under the Equality Act 2010 to make reasonable adjustments. A person referred to as a facilitator may be appointed to support or facilitate certain access arrangements for a candidate under exam conditions, for example, to act as a practical assistant, prompter, reader or scribe. The general principles for the invigilation of candidates with access arrangements include the requirement for invigilators supervising candidates and those acting as a facilitator supporting candidates to fully understand the respective role and what is not permissible in the exam room. In this series of 3 videos on access arrangements, we consider the regulations which invigilators, including a roving invigilator, and facilitators must be aware of when supervising or supporting candidates who require a reader, scribe, prompter or practical assistant. The regulations concerning the invigilation and facilitation on the use of a reader and scribe are covered in 2 additional videos which can be found on our online portal. In this video, we focus upon various aspects of invigilating and facilitating access arrangements, including the role of a practical assistant and prompter. Invigilators must be informed of those candidates with access arrangements and made aware of the particular access arrangement or arrangements awarded. Invigilators must also be aware of the impact of access arrangements such as extra time and supervised rest breaks upon both the candidate in question, other candidates and their role during an exam.
A facilitator supports a candidate who has a particular access arrangement. Where permitted by the regulations, if the facilitator is conducting the access arrangement on a one-to-one basis, they're also the invigilator and therefore must be familiar with the relevant contents of the Instructions for Conducting Examinations publication. Where the invigilator additionally acts as a facilitator, as a practical assistant, a reader and/or a scribe, a roving invigilator must also be used. The roving invigilator will enter the room at regular intervals in order to observe the conducting of the examination, ensure all relevant rules are being adhered to, and to support the practical assistant or reader and/or scribe in maintaining the integrity of the examination. The facilitator, invigilator and roving invigilator must be aware of the regulations relating to the access arrangement which is being conducted. Invigilators and facilitators may be involved in supporting candidates in a range of access arrangements. The most commonly used access arrangements include a reader or computer reader, a scribe or computer scribe, referred to as speech recognition technology. The facilitation and invigilation of both of these are covered in separate videos. Other arrangements include read aloud, where the candidate is permitted to read out loud to themselves any of the instructions and questions on the examination paper and their answers to the questions. Use of an examination reading pen, where the candidate independently controls the reading pen to read out the text on the examination paper to themselves. Supervised rest breaks are breaks where the timing of the exam is stopped and restarted after the break, so the candidate is given the full working time allowed for the exam. Separate invigilation within the centre is where a candidate and an invigilator are accommodated separately. Instructions for conducting examinations regulations must be adhered to. Word processors, computers, laptops and tablets may be approved for a candidate with the spelling and grammar check or predictive text disabled. Bilingual translation dictionaries may be used, where eligible, by candidates whose first language is not English. Extra time may be awarded due to a candidate's particular needs. Most commonly, 25% extra time is awarded, meaning 25% of time is added to the exam paper duration, impacting on the length of time an invigilator will be present in the exam room. colour naming by the invigilator for candidates who are colour blind and require specific colours to be identified, modified papers which are individually prepared for candidates for whom other access arrangements are unsuitable, for example for candidates with a visual or other impairment. Modified papers may include enlarged papers, papers printed on coloured paper, tactile diagrams, enlarged font or braille papers, etc. A frequently used access arrangement is the use of a prompter. This is permitted for candidates who have little or no sense of time, or lose concentration easily, or are affected by an obsessive-compulsive disorder which leads them to keep revisiting a question rather than moving on to another question. A prompter is a responsible adult who may sit beside the candidate in order to keep him or her focused on the need to answer a question and then move on to answering the next question. If permission has also been granted for these arrangements, a prompter may act as a practical assistant, a reader, or a scribe. A prompter must abide by the regulations, since failure to do so could lead to the disqualification of the candidate. A prompter may use the following prompts either vocally or written on a flashcard, such as, "Jack, focus on the question," "Jack, there are 15 minutes left," or tap on the desk or on the candidate's arm, depending on what is normal practice, in order to remind the candidate that he or she must pay attention to the question, or that it's time for the candidate to move on to the next question. A prompter may also use the candidate's name as an appropriate prompt during the examination in order to bring the candidate's attention back to the question paper. For example, Jack. A prompter must not advise the candidate about which questions to do or about the order in which questions should be answered, or give factual help or offer any suggestions or communicate in any way other than those detailed. Another arrangement is the use of a practical assistant who will, at the candidate's instruction, carry out practical tasks which the candidate is unable to perform. For example, a candidate with very poor motor coordination may need help in holding a ruler, placing a ruler in the correct place for a line to be drawn, or turning the pages of a script. The candidate may also need help when using mathematical equipment. A candidate with a severe vision impairment may need his or her hand to be guided to the relevant page or section of text in a paper. Care must be taken not to direct the candidate to the answer. A blind candidate may require a practical assistant to record the position of points or lines indicated on a tactile graph by means of pins and elastic bands. If permission has also been granted for these arrangements, a practical assistant may act as a reader or a scribe. A practical assistant must abide by the regulations, since failure to do so could lead to the disqualification of the candidate. A practical assistant must perform practical tasks as specifically approved by the awarding body and according to the candidate's instructions, unless the skill to be performed is the focus of the assessment, in which case the practical assistant will not be permitted, or the procedure would be unsafe whilst ensuring the safety of the candidate and those around him or her. If a practical assistant is experiencing any problems in communication during the assessment, this must be referred immediately to the invigilator or examinations officer. A practical assistant may ask the candidate to repeat instructions where these are not clear. A practical assistant must not advise the candidate about which questions to do or about the order in which questions should be answered, give factual help, or indicate when the task is complete.